galaxy was already burning when the warning arrived. Across thousands of star systems, fleets clashed and worlds fell silent. Space stations drifted as broken shells. Trade routes were empty, and old alliances had turned to dust. At the center of the chaos stood the Krell Dominion, a vast alien empire that moved like a slow, crushing storm. They did not rush. They advanced planet by planet, certain that nothing could stop them. On the bridge of a Krell command ship, High Strategist Vorth watched a dying world through a wide crystal screen. The planet below was once green. Now it glowed red with fire. Krell ships hung in orbit like dark scars. The battle was already over. Another system secured, an officer said. His voice held pride. Vorth did not smile. Victory had become routine. Too easy. The galaxy had folded faster than expected. Species begged. Others fought and vanished. None had changed the outcome. Then time stopped. At first, no one understood what had happened. The sound of engines faded. The hum of power vanished. Lights froze in place. Even the distant stars seemed to hold their breath. Every screen on the bridge went black. Across the galaxy, the same thing happened. On warships, in palace halls, inside hidden bunkers and quiet homes, all displays went dark at the exact same moment. Weapons powered down. Shields fell. Faster than light drives shut off as if they had never existed. For one full second, the galaxy stood still. Then the screens turned back on. A single image appeared everywhere. It showed a human face. The figure was neither old nor young. The skin was light brown, the eyes dark and steady. The person wore a simple uniform with no visible rank or symbols. Behind them was a plain background, gray and calm. The human looked straight ahead, as if staring into every mind at once. No sound came at first, just the image. Fear spread faster than any fleet. Humans were known but distant. A small species from a quiet region of space. They traded. They explored. They avoided conflict. No one had ever seen them do something like this. The human spoke. "This is Earth." The voice was clear and even. Not loud. Not soft. Carried no anger. "We have watched the war spreading through the galaxy." Images flashed behind the speaker. Burning cities. Broken ships. Refugees drifting in space. The same scenes every species already knew, but had learned to ignore. "You have crossed many lines," the voice continued. "You have destroyed worlds that could never fight back. You believe strength means control." The image shifted. A star map appeared. It showed a wide spiral of known space. Borders glowed in many colors. Then one region changed. A deep red line formed, sharp and bright. It marked a boundary around a small cluster of stars. Earth space. "This line is not a challenge," the human said. "It is a limit." The camera returned to the human face. "We will not attack you. We will not follow you. We will not rule you." Pause followed. It lasted long enough to make leaders lean closer to their screens. "But if you cross this line," the human said, "you will be erased." The word hung in the air. Erased. No threat followed. No weapons appeared. No fleets moved into view. The human continued. "This is your only warning." The image vanished. Every system returned to normal. Engines restarted. Lights flickered back to life. Weapons came online. Time flowed again. On the Krell command ship, silence filled the bridge. Officers stared at one another, unsure what to say. Vorth leaned forward, his many eyes narrowing. Humans had never spoken to the galaxy as one voice. They had never shown power. They had never drawn a line. "Analysis," Vorth ordered. The officers worked fast. Data streamed across their displays. "No weapon signature detected," one said. "No fleet movement near the boundary. Human territory remains unchanged," another added. "No sign of defense buildup." A low sound of laughter moved through the bridge. "A bluff," an officer said. "They fear us." Vorth did not answer right away. He watched the red line on the star map. It was clean. Perfect. Too perfect. "Send the council notice," he said at last. "We will test this warning." Elsewhere, reactions varied. Some species celebrated. They mocked the humans. They called the message empty words from a weak race hiding behind hope. Others felt something colder. The oldest civilizations remembered a rule learned through pain. True power did not shout. Spoke once. In hidden archives, records were pulled. Old encounters with humans were reviewed. Trade logs, diplomatic notes. Small details once ignored now felt heavy. Humans had never lost a war. Humans had never won one either. They simply avoided them. On a remote listening station near the red boundary, a small alien crew watched the star map in silence. The line pulsed faintly, steady and calm. "Do you think they mean it?" one asked. The station commander did not answer. He was staring at a detail most others missed. The red line was not placed to protect Earth alone. It also protected nearby worlds. Small worlds. Weak worlds. Species that could never fight the Krell or anyone else. The commander felt a slow chill. Back in Krell space, orders were issued. A scout fleet was chosen. Not an armada. Just enough ships to prove a point. They would approach the boundary, cross it slightly, then retreat. A test. The galaxy watched as the fleet moved. News spread across every channel. This would decide everything. Either the humans would strike or their threat would collapse. The scout fleet advanced. Closer and closer they came. No human ships appeared. No messages followed. The red line remained still. The lead Krell ship crossed the boundary. Nothing happened. Cheers erupted across Krell space. Laughter filled command halls. The galaxy breathed out. Then the second ship crossed. Still nothing. The third. The fourth. The entire scout fleet moved beyond the line. Vorth allowed himself a thin smile. "Transmit victory notice," he said. Before the order could be completed, every Krell screen flickered. The scout fleet vanished. There was no flash, no sound, no energy spike. One moment the ships were there, the next they were gone. All signals ended at the same instant. Sensors showed empty space. The galaxy froze again, this time without any warning. Across every system, a single sentence appeared on all screens. "We told you." The message disappeared. No human ships followed. No further words came. The red line remained. On the Krell command ship, fear finally arrived. Vorth stared at the empty space where his fleet had been. He understood now. The humans had not threatened destruction. They had promised removal. And they had only just begun to speak. The galaxy did not recover from the disappearance of the scout fleet. Fear did not spread loudly. It moved quietly, like cold air filling a room. Governments did not scream or panic on open channels. They shut doors. They called private meetings. Old enemies paused their wars without saying why. The Krell Dominion tried to hide the truth. Official broadcasts claimed the scout fleet had suffered a drive failure. They said the ships were lost in a navigation fault. No mention was made of the red line. No mention of humans. But lies decay quickly in space. Independent sensors had seen the fleet cross the boundary. Civilian ships near the edge had watched the signals end all at once. Traders had recorded the moment and shared it in secret networks. The truth leaked piece by piece until it could no longer be contained. The fleet had not exploded. It had been erased. On the Krell capital world, High Strategist Vorth stood before the Dominion Council. The chamber was vast, carved from black stone and metal taken from conquered worlds. Tall alien forms surrounded him, their eyes sharp, their bodies tense. "They crossed the boundary," Vorth said, "and they ceased to exist." A council member struck the floor with a claw. "Impossible. No weapon can remove matter without energy." Vorth remained still. "Then we are facing something beyond our understanding." Anger rippled through the council. "Humans are weak," another voice hissed. "They hide behind tricks." Vorth looked up. "Weak species do not stop time across the galaxy." Silence followed. For the first time in many cycles, the Krell Dominion felt uncertainty. Elsewhere, reactions were very different. On worlds that had suffered under Krell rule, hope began to rise. Quiet hope, careful and fragile. Refugees whispered the word Earth like a prayer. Stories spread of a line that could not be crossed, of a species that did not conquer but punished conquerors. But hope brought fear with it. If humans could erase fleets, what could they do to planets? On Earth, far from alien eyes, humanity watched the galaxy respond. Deep beneath the surface, inside structures older than most human nations, observers monitored every signal. No cheering followed the scout fleet's disappearance. No celebration, only preparation. A woman stood alone in a circular chamber, staring at the same red line displayed across the galaxy. Her name was Director Hale. She had been chosen not for ambition, but for restraint. They tested us faster than expected, an aide said quietly. They always do, Hale replied. Power invites tests. The aide hesitated. The Krell will not stop. Hale nodded. No, they will escalate. That is their nature. What is our next step? Hale looked at the map. We wait. The aide frowned. That's all. For now, Hale said. We gave one warning. They crossed it once. The next time must teach the galaxy. The galaxy did not wait peacefully. The Krell Dominion began moving fleets again, but not toward the red line. Instead, they struck harder elsewhere. They burned worlds faster. They wanted to prove that humanity could not control them. Entire systems vanished under Krell assault. Billions died in days. And every time, the red line remained untouched. The message was clear. If humans would not act, the galaxy would bleed. Voices rose in protest. Neutral species demanded Earth intervene. Others begged for protection. Many feared that the red line was not meant to stop war, only to protect human space. Among the oldest species, debate turned into argument. Humans are not saviors, one elder said. They are watchers. They erased the fleet, another replied. That makes them judges. Judges were dangerous. Then something new happened. A small alien world near the red boundary was attacked. Not by the Krell but by pirates. The raid was brutal and fast. Cities burned. Calls for help went unanswered. The pirates fled toward the boundary. They crossed the red line. For half a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the pirate ships slowed. Their engines failed. Their weapons shut down. They drifted, helpless. A human ship appeared. It did not warp in. It did not flash into existence. It was simply there. Smooth, dark, and silent. No markings. No visible weapons. A human voice filled the pirate ships. You crossed the line. The pirates tried to respond. Their channels were dead. You will be returned, the voice continued. If you can still return. The human ship vanished. Moments later, the pirate ships reappeared outside the boundary, stripped of engines, weapons, and power cores. They drifted until local forces captured them. The galaxy watched in shock. The pirates were not erased. They were spared. The message was clear. Humanity chose who vanished. That frightened the galaxy more than destruction. On Krell worlds, panic grew. What if they decide we are next? An officer asked. Vorth listened to the reports in silence. The pattern was forming now. Humans were not reacting blindly. They were responding with precision. They are shaping behavior, Vorth said slowly. Like handlers. The word tasted bitter. A young strategist spoke up. Then we must force their hand. Make them act openly. Vorth turned. How? Strike Earth's allies. Push refugees toward their space. Make them choose. The council murmured approval. Vorth felt something close to dread. If we push too hard, we may not survive the lesson. But the Dominion had never turned back. Orders were given. A massive fleet began moving not toward Earth, but toward a cluster of weak worlds just outside the red line. Refugee routes. Trade havens. Places humans had quietly protected without claiming. The galaxy noticed. Earth noticed. Director Hale watched the fleet's movement in silence. They are testing our values now, the aide said. Yes, Hale replied. They want to see what kind of monsters we are. The aide swallowed. And what kind are we? Hale closed her eyes for a moment. We are the kind that waited until now, she said. and the kind that will not wait again. The human defense network began to activate. Not ships, not weapons, something deeper. Across human space, ancient systems woke from dormancy. Observatories that watched not space but probability. Engines that did not move ships but outcomes. The red line pulsed for the first time since it appeared. Across the galaxy, sensors struggled to understand why. On the bridge of the advancing Krell fleet, alarms began to sound. Not from weapons or shields, but from navigation systems. Space itself seemed wrong. Distances stretched. Time delayed. Stars shifted positions. The fleet slowed without braking. Vorth watched the reports come in from afar. His voice was quiet when he spoke. "They are not defending space," he said. "They are rewriting it." Fear finally replaced pride. And the galaxy leaned forward, knowing the next human action would decide the shape of every future war. Space bent before the Krell fleet could understand what was happening. At first, the changes felt small. Navigation officers reported delays of a few seconds between commands and response. Engines answered late. Course corrections overshot their targets. The fleet slowed even though no braking orders were given. Then the stars moved. Not quickly, not violently. They drifted, sliding across viewports like pieces on a board being rearranged by an unseen hand. Constellations no longer matched charts. Distances between ships grew uneven, as if space itself was stretching in some places and folding in others. "Report," the fleet commander demanded. "We are losing positional lock," an officer replied. "Relative distance between ships is unstable. Our formation cannot hold. Cause? Unknown." That word spread across the bridge like a disease. Unknown. The fleet tried to turn back. The command was sent. Engines flared. Nothing changed. The ships were moving, but not in the direction ordered. They drifted sideways through space that no longer followed straight lines. Then the human signal arrived. It did not override systems this time. It did not shut down weapons or freeze time. It spoke only to the fleet's command channel. "This region is under human protection." The voice was calm, neither male nor female, carried no emotion. "You are approaching a civilian cluster. Your presence here is a violation." The Krell commander forced his voice steady. "You have no claim here. These worlds are not yours." Pause followed. "Correct," the human voice replied. "They are not ours." The stars outside shifted again, slower now, like a deep breath being taken. "They are under our care." The channel went silent. Across the fleet, panic began to rise. Officers shouted reports. Sensor data conflicted with itself. Ships that should have been close appeared far apart. Signals arrived before they were sent. "We are trapped," someone whispered. On distant worlds, billions watched the same data streams. The galaxy had never seen space behave this way. Not even the oldest species had legends of such control. On Earth, Director Hale stood with her hands folded behind her back. She watched a simplified model of the distorted region. It looked like a gentle spiral, calm and balanced. "They are still alive," an aide noted. "No weapons fired." Hale nodded. "This is instruction, not punishment." The aide hesitated. "Will they understand?" Hale did not answer. Inside the distorted region, the Krell fleet reached the edge of panic. Smaller ships began to collide as distances collapsed without warning. Larger vessels found themselves isolated, drifting alone in warped pockets of space. The human voice returned. "You have 3 options," it said. The words appeared as text as well as sound, translated perfectly across species. "Withdraw peacefully. Remain and be detained. Advance and be erased." The Krell commander felt the weight of the moment. Never in the Dominion's history had an enemy offered choices like this. "Detained?" he demanded. "By what authority?" "By necessity," the human replied. "Your actions have made you a danger to others." Around the commander, his officers waited. Some looked angry, others afraid. A few were silent, staring at the twisted stars beyond the hull. The commander opened a private channel to the Dominion Council. They are not bluffing, he said. They are not attacking. They are controlling. The council's response was divided. Some demanded retreat. Others demanded defiance. Pride clashed with survival. Vorth listened from afar, his expression unreadable. They are showing us the cage, he said softly. Not yet closing it. The council voted. Advance. The order was sent. The moment the command left the bridge, space reacted. The distortion tightened. Ships attempting to move forward found their paths looping back on themselves. Engines burned fuel without producing motion. The fleet was no longer advancing toward the civilian worlds. It was folding inward. One by one, Krell ships vanished from long-range sensors. Not erased. Relocated. They reappeared in a vast, empty region of space far from any star. A holding zone. No weapons fired. No explosions. Just removal. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. On the bridge of the Krell flagship, the commander felt something break inside him. They are sorting us, he said. The human voice spoke again, closer now, as if space itself carried it. You were warned. The flagship systems shut down gently and completely. Gravity softened. Power dimmed to a safe minimum. The crew did not die. They waited. Elsewhere, the effect was immediate. The Krell advance halted across multiple fronts. Fleets froze, unsure whether to move. Officers hesitated before issuing orders. Every decision now carried a new question. What will the humans allow? For the first time in generations, the Krell dominion slowed. Across the galaxy, something else happened. Wars stopped. Not everywhere. Not instantly. But enough to be noticed. Smaller powers pulled back their fleets. Pirate clans went dark. Even ancient rivals paused their conflicts, watching the Red Line and the regions near it with new eyes. Humanity had not declared rule. They had declared consequence. On a liberated world near the boundary, survivors gathered in the ruins of a city once burned by the Krell. They watched the sky as human ships passed overhead for the first time. The ships did not land. They did not speak. They simply stayed. Children pointed upward. Elders cried in silence. Hope took root again, cautious but real. Back in Krell space, Vorth stood alone in his chamber. The council had adjourned in anger and fear. Reports continued to arrive, each one worse than the last. Entire fleets detained without combat. Trade routes disrupted by spatial instability. Confidence eroding. Vorth replayed the human message again and again. This is a limit, not a border. A limit applied to behavior, not territory. He understood now what the others did not. The humans were not defending space. They were enforcing a rule. And rules could spread. On Earth, Director Hale finally allowed herself to sit. The first phase had worked. The galaxy had seen restraint paired with absolute control. But restraint alone would not end the war. They will adapt, the aide said. They always do. Yes, Hale replied. So will we. She looked at a deeper layer of the display, one never shown to non-human eyes. Lines of probability branched and rejoined. Outcomes shifted as variables changed. The next part is harder, she said. Because? The aide asked. Because now, Hale answered. They will try to make us choose between peace and mercy. Far away in the holding zone, Krell ships floated powerless. Crews waited in silence, fear pressing in from all sides. Then a human vessel appeared among them. It was larger than the others. Not in size but in presence. Space around it felt still, as if unwilling to disturb it. A transmission spread to every detained ship. You are not prisoners, the human voice said. You are evidence. Evidence of what no one asked. Deep within Krell territory, a different fleet was already moving. Not toward the boundary. Not toward civilians. Toward something older. Something hidden. And humanity had not yet noticed. The galaxy held its breath again, sensing that the next move would not be so clean, or so merciful. The fleet that moved in secret did not carry banners. It did not travel in open space or follow known routes. It slipped between gaps in charts, using paths only the Krell had ever mapped. These were ancient corridors left behind by collapsed stars and broken dimensions, dangerous to most species but familiar to the Dominion. This fleet had one purpose: find the human core, not Earth itself, something deeper. Krell intelligence had worked in silence for generations, gathering fragments of truth from ruins and lost civilizations. Long before humanity appeared on the galactic stage, there were whispers of structures buried in reality itself. Machines older than empires, systems that shaped laws rather than obeyed them. The Krell believed humans had found one, or built one. If they could destroy it, the red line would mean nothing. On the bridge of the hidden fleet, Commander Sareth studied the dark ahead. The stars here were thin and twisted, like reflections in broken glass. "This region should not exist," an officer said quietly. Sareth's eyes narrowed. "Yet it does. That is always where power hides." The fleet moved deeper. Meanwhile, the galaxy felt a change, though no one could name it. The red line still held. Human ships still watched. But something in the background felt strained, like a held breath lasting too long. On Earth, alarms finally sounded. Not loud ones. Not public. Private signals pulsed through underground chambers and sealed facilities. Probability monitors spiked. Prediction engines returned conflicting futures. Director Hale stood as reports flooded in. "There is a blind zone forming," an analyst said. "Outside mapped space. Someone is moving where we cannot see clearly." Hale's jaw tightened. "The Krell." "Yes. They are not trying to cross the line," another analyst added. "They are going around it." Silence followed. Hale looked at the display showing branching futures. Many ended the same way. Loss, not of Earth, of control. "They are searching for the anchor," Hale said. The aides froze. "The anchor is a myth," one said. Hale shook her head. "It was, until we built it." Deep beyond human space, the Krell fleet reached its destination. There was nothing there. No star, no planet, no structure, just emptiness that felt wrong. Sensors screamed in confusion. Space folded inward without collapsing. Time passed unevenly. Signals returned before they were sent. "This is it," Sareth said. "The source." The fleet prepared weapons designed to tear holes in reality. Devices banned even by Krell law. If humans were bending space, these weapons would break it. The first weapon fired. Nothing happened. The second weapon fired. Still nothing. Then the emptiness moved. It did not rush. It did not attack. It unfolded. What appeared was not a machine, not fully. Not alive either. It was a structure of rules made visible, lines and shapes intersecting in impossible ways, glowing softly like thought made light. Human design layered over something far older. The anchor. The human voice spoke, not through channels, but directly into the minds of every being present. "You should not be here." Fear flooded the bridge. Sareth tried to speak, but his words tangled in his thoughts. "We warned you," the voice continued. "This place holds the limits you felt. You came to break them." The Krell fired everything they had. Reality trembled. For a moment the anchor flickered. Across the galaxy, stars dimmed. The red line pulsed wildly. Human ships shuddered. On Earth, Director Hale felt the shock through the floor. "They've struck it," an aide shouted. "Stabilize," Hale ordered. "We're trying." The futures fractured. For the first time, humanity was not certain. The anchor stabilized, but not without cost. Something changed. The human voice returned, colder now. "You have crossed beyond the line." Sareth felt gravity return suddenly. The bridge lights flared. Systems rebooted. Hope surged. Then the fleet began to vanish. Not all at once. Ship by ship. Each removal was slow enough to understand. Space closed around each vessel gently, like a door shutting with care. Sareth watched his escorts disappear. "No," he whispered. "You are not erased," the voice said. "You are contained." The flagship remained alone. Sareth fell to the floor as pressure built, not on his body, but on his thoughts. "You wanted the core," the voice said. "You found it." The flagship vanished. Across the galaxy, the effect was immediate. The red line expanded. Not outward in distance, but in meaning. New regions glowed faint red. Not claimed, not controlled. Protected. Humanity had changed the rules. On war fronts everywhere, fleets found their weapons unresponsive. Some ships lost navigation entirely. Others found their targets unreachable, paths bending away at the last moment. War became impossible. Panic erupted. The Krell Dominion collapsed into chaos. Command chains broke. Worlds rebelled. Subject species rose up, sensing the shift. And humanity did not intervene. They watched. On Earth, Director Hale sank into her chair. "We showed them too much," an aide said. "No," Hale replied quietly. "We showed them enough." But the anchor was revealed. Yes. Hale stared at the display, now showing a calmer set of futures. Fewer branches. Fewer endings. "They will fear us now," the aide said. "They already did," Hale answered. "Now they will understand us." Across the galaxy, a new truth settled in. Humanity was not the strongest species. They were the boundary. And beyond that boundary, the universe itself refused to go. Far away in the holding zones, detained Krell crews felt the shift. Space around them stabilized. Human ships remained nearby, silent and unmoving. A final message spread across all known space. Not a threat. Not a warning. A statement. The line stands. The rules apply. Peace is possible. Choose wisely. The galaxy listened. But deep in the dark between stars, something ancient stirred, awakened by the stress placed upon reality. Something that had been watching long before humans learned to speak. And now it was curious. The ancient thing did not wake with anger. It woke with interest. Far beyond mapped space, where no empire had ever placed a name, the fabric of reality carried scars older than memory. Long ago, forces had shaped the universe, then moved on, leaving behind watchers. Not gods. Not machines. Custodians that ensured balance through distance and silence. One of them felt the strain. The anchor had bent rules that were never meant to be touched by a young species. The universe had allowed it barely. But allowance did not mean approval. The watcher turned its attention inward. And for the first time in ages, it looked at humanity. Across the galaxy, peace felt fragile. Wars had stopped, but weapons were still loaded. Fleets remained on alert, frozen in uneasy positions. Borders were no longer crossed, yet fear moved freely. Human ships stayed where they were, quiet and still. They did not patrol aggressively. They did not expand the red glow further. They waited. On Earth, Director Hale met with the Inner Council, a small group that knew the full truth. The room was simple, carved from stone and reinforced with layers of unseen systems. "The anchor is stable," an analyst said. But something responded when it was stressed. Hale nodded. "We felt it too." Another voice spoke. "Could it be an unknown species?" "No," Hale replied. "It is older than species." Silence followed. The anchor had been built using fragments of something humanity did not fully understand. They had not created power. They had learned how to ask permission from the universe and receive a careful answer. Now the universe had noticed how often it was being asked. "We may have drawn attention we cannot erase," Hale said. Outside human space, the first sign appeared. On a quiet world near the former Krell frontier, the sky changed color. Not dramatically, just enough for people to look up and feel uneasy. Sensors showed nothing wrong. Gravity stayed constant. Time flowed normally. Then a voice spoke. Not through screens. Not through devices. Inside minds. "I am aware of the boundary." Every living being on the planet heard it in their own language. Fear spread instantly. "I am aware of the anchor," the voice continued. "It bends rules that protect all." The message did not accuse. It observed. Human sensors reacted seconds later, too late to stop the transmission. Director Hale felt the words echo through her thoughts as well. The voice had reached Earth. "We did not hide well enough," an aide whispered. "No," Hale replied. "We hid too well." That made us interesting. The voice returned, now directed across the galaxy. Humanity, it said, you enforce peace through control. You prevent harm by removing choice. The words cut deep because they were close to truth. You call this protection. On Earth, Hale stood. We call it survival, she said aloud, knowing the voice could hear her. There was a pause. Survival is acceptable, the voice replied. Dominance is not. Across the galaxy, stars seemed to dim slightly, not in brightness but in warmth. A warning written in sensation rather than light. What are you? Hale asked. I am what remains when creators leave, the voice said. I ensure that no single will reshape's existence. Fear rippled through the inner council. Are we in violation? Hale asked. Another pause. Not yet, the galaxy exhaled. But you are close, the voice added. On distant worlds, alien leaders fell to their knees. The scale of what they were hearing dwarfed empires and fleets. Even the Krell, broken and scattered, felt small. We stopped wars, Hale said. We saved billions. Yes, the voice replied. And you replaced chaos with dependence. The truth hurt more than any threat. Species had stopped choosing peace. They had relied on the red line. Balance requires risk, the voice said. And choice. What do you want? Hale asked. To see if you can let go, the voice replied. Then it did something terrifying. The red line flickered. Not vanished. Weakened. Across the galaxy, sensors screamed. Protected regions lost their glow. Distortions softened. Human control loosened. Panic erupted. Pirate clans powered engines. Old grudges reignited. Some fleets began to move, testing the sudden freedom. On Earth, alarms blared. The anchor is being restricted, an analyst shouted. We're losing reach. Hale clenched her fists. The voice spoke again. I have not removed your tools, it said. I have reduced them. You will no longer enforce peace everywhere. Then war will return, Hale said. Yes, the voice replied. Unless you teach another way. Silence followed. This was the test. Humanity could tighten its grip, fight the Watcher, and risk tearing reality itself. Or they could step back. Hale looked at the galaxy display. Futures branched wildly again. Many led to fire, some to slow healing. She made her choice. Reduce the anchor's output, she ordered. The aides stared at her. Director, one said. We will lose control. We never owned it, Hale replied. Do it. Across human space, systems powered down in layers. The red line dimmed further, stabilizing at a smaller range. Human ships pulled back from several regions, remaining only near the most vulnerable worlds. The voice watched. You surprise me, it said. We will still act, Hale said. When lines are crossed. Yes, the voice replied. But you will not draw them everywhere. The Watcher withdrew its pressure. Stars warmed again. Space relaxed. The voice faded, leaving behind a final thought. Grow beyond guardianship, or be replaced by it. The galaxy was silent. On many worlds, leaders realized something new. Peace was no longer enforced. It was offered. Some chose it. Others did not. And on the edge of former Krell space, a fleet powered its weapons, testing the weakened boundary. Humanity noticed. Director Hale looked at the data, her expression steady. So, she said quietly, the lesson continues. Far away, the ancient Watcher observed, not judging but learning. For the first time since it had awakened, it wondered if this young species might one day stand beside it, not as rulers of space, but as partners in balance. And that thought unsettled it more than any war ever had. The first shots after the weakening of the boundary were small. Patrol skirmish. A border clash. Two fleets testing each other with careful distance. Like animals stepping onto thin ice. No worlds burned. No cities fell. But the sound of weapons echoed again. And the galaxy felt the old fear return. Human sensors tracked everything. Director Hale watched the data streams without speaking. The anchor was quieter now, its reach limited, its influence subtle instead of absolute. Humanity could still act, but not everywhere. Not instantly. This was the cost of choice. They are testing us, an aide said. They want to see if we will step in. Yes, Hale replied. And if we do it wrong, the Watcher will step in for us. On the contested border world of Let His, two alien coalitions faced each other across orbit. Old enemies, old wounds. They had paused their war when the red line first appeared. Now, with protection uncertain, anger returned. Weapons locked. Civilians hid underground, listening to the hum of shields that might fail. Human ships waited nearby, just outside the system. They did not move in. They did not speak. Confusion spread among the fleets. Why aren't they stopping this? One commander demanded. They used to, another replied. But humanity was watching for something else. Choice. On Earth, Hale leaned forward as live probability models updated. One future showed intervention. The war ended fast. Resentment grew. Dependence returned. Another showed withdrawal. The war escalated. Millions died. A third, narrow path appeared between them. Risky. Uncertain. Human. Open a channel, Hale said. The signal went out not as a command, not as a threat. As an invitation. It reached both fleets at the same time. This is Earth, the message said. We will not stop this fight for you. Shock rippled through command bridges. But we will protect those who cannot choose. Human ships moved then, slipping past the fleets, descending toward the planet's surface. They projected shields over cities, power grids, hospitals. No weapons aimed at either side. The message continued. If you continue this war, you will do so knowing civilians are safe. And knowing the cost will be yours alone. Silence followed. The fleets hesitated. Without civilian fear to exploit, without easy targets, the war lost its sharp edge. Officers argued. Leaders paused. Hours passed. Then one fleet powered down its weapons. The other followed. The war ended not with force, but with exhaustion. Across the galaxy, the moment was noticed. Humanity had not enforced peace. They had removed the excuse for war. The ancient Watcher observed closely. This is different, it thought. Elsewhere, not all choices ended so cleanly. A former Krell warlord gathered survivors and attacked a weak trade world, hoping to rebuild power through fear. Human ships arrived late. Too late to prevent loss, but not too late to respond. The warlord's fleet was not erased. They were isolated. Human vessels surrounded them, not blocking weapons, but cutting off escape. No supplies entered. No signals left. Days passed. The warlord broadcast demands. Threats. Silence answered him. On the fifth day, his own crews turned against him. They surrendered. Humanity accepted the surrender without ceremony. Across the galaxy, a pattern began to form. Wars that fed on civilians starved. Wars of pride burned themselves out. Those who crossed the old line of genocide still vanished, quietly and completely. The Watcher listened to every outcome. You are allowing suffering, it said to Hale. Yes, Hale replied, but less than before. And you risk collapse. Yes. The voice paused. Why? Because peace that cannot survive choice is not peace, Hale said. It's a cage. The Watcher considered this. For ages, it had enforced balance by preventing extremes, by removing threats before they grew. Humanity was doing something messier, something alive. Across the galaxy, alliances shifted. Species began forming councils again, not to beg Earth, but to negotiate with each other. Trade resumed. Borders were discussed, not imposed. It was slower. It was louder. But it was real. Then came the crisis. A rogue coalition of worlds, fearful of human influence and angry at lost power, launched a coordinated strike. Not at Earth. At the anchor, they had learned from the Krell failure. Smaller forces, distributed attacks, sacrifices accepted. The first strike hit an outer node. The anchor shuddered. On Earth, alarms screamed. They're trying to overload it, an analyst shouted. Hale stood instantly. If it breaks, It could destabilize entire regions of space. The Watcher felt the strike as well. This endangers balance, it said. Hale nodded. Then help us. The voice hesitated. You ask for aid from what limits you? I ask for partnership, Hale replied. Not control. Silence stretched. The second strike landed. Reality rippled. The Watcher made its choice. Space hardened around the anchor. Not strengthened by human design, but reinforced by older rules. The attacks failed, their energy dispersing harmlessly. The rogue coalition's ships lost power and drifted. The Watcher spoke across the galaxy. This structure remains. This species remains. Those who seek collapse will be removed. Several fleets vanished instantly. Not by human action, by the universe itself. Fear returned, sharp and cold. But it was different now. Humanity had not pulled the trigger. They had asked for help. On Earth, Hale let out a slow breath. Thank you, she said. The voice replied softly. You chose restraint when power was offered. That matters. The Watcher withdrew again, deeper than before. The anchor stabilized. The galaxy absorbed the lesson. Humanity was no longer the sole boundary. They were part of a larger balance. Weeks passed, then months. The galaxy did not become peaceful overnight, but it became survivable. On a world once scarred by war, children played under open skies. Human ships passed overhead, not as guardians, but as travelers. Director Hale watched one final report. Conflict levels down. Civilian loss sharply reduced. Voluntary treaties rising. The aide smiled faintly. We did it. Hale shook her head. We're doing it. Far beyond sight, the ancient Watcher observed the patterns settle. For the first time in its long existence, it did not feel alone in its task. Perhaps it thought the universe had grown something new. Not rulers, not guardians, but partners. And that, more than any erased fleet, changed everything. Somewhere in the dark, the last remnants of the Krell listened, and understood that fear alone had failed them. The galaxy was no longer shaped by who could destroy the most. It was shaped by who could stop and choose and still stand. The galaxy did not celebrate the end of the Great Fear. There were no shared holidays. No songs that crossed species and stars. What followed was quieter than war and heavier than victory. It was the slow work of living with choice again. Human ships reduced their presence even further. Some returned home. Others became escorts, traders, or observers invited by local governments instead of imposed by power. The red line still existed, but now it was thin and steady, no longer glowing with warning, only with memory. Most species understood its meaning. Cross it with cruelty and consequences would come. Live beside it with care, and it would remain silent. On Earth, Director Hale walked alone through a garden built above one of the oldest control centers. Real plants grew there, soil carried under careful protection, water recycled drop by drop. It was a reminder of where humanity had come from. An aide joined her quietly. The final reports are in, he said. No major conflicts. Not perfect, but stable. Hale nodded. That's all balance ever is. The aide hesitated. The Watcher hasn't spoken again. It won't, Hale replied. Not unless we forget. She looked up at the sky, blue and calm. Earth had never known the full weight of what rested on its choices. Most humans lived ordinary lives. They loved, argued, worked, and dreamed without knowing how close the universe had come to snapping. And that was exactly how Hale wanted it. Far beyond Earth, the ancient Watcher observed the galaxy with a softer attention than before. It did not interfere. It did not judge each decision. It watched patterns, not events. And the patterns were changing. Conflict still existed, but it no longer spread unchecked. When wars began, neighbors intervened. When empires rose too fast, alliances formed to slow them. Power no longer gathered in one place for long. Humanity had not become rulers. They had become an example. On a former Krell world, now free and rebuilding, a memorial stood where a command tower once loomed. It did not honor conquerors. It honored restraint. Names of worlds lost before the warning were carved into stone, not as blame, but as reminder. A young Krell stood before it, reading slowly. He had never served the Dominion. He had only heard stories of endless expansion and sudden collapse. "Do you hate the humans?" a smaller child asked him. The young Krell thought for a long moment. "No," he said. "I think we hated being stopped." The child frowned. "But they could have erased us." "Yes," the older one replied. "And they didn't." Across the galaxy, similar thoughts took root. Humanity's greatest act was not the fleets they erased, nor the space they bent, nor the anchor they built. It was the moment they stepped back. The Watcher understood that now. In its long existence, it had seen many powerful species rise and fall. All had believed control was the same as order. All had failed when faced with limits. Humans were different. They accepted limits. That made them dangerous in a way the Watcher respected. One final time, the Watcher turned its attention toward Earth. It did not speak. It did not send visions or tests. It simply adjusted the universe, slightly, a small allowance, a margin of forgiveness. Then it withdrew fully, becoming once again what it had always been. A quiet rule that no one noticed until it was gone. Years passed. The story of the final warning became legend. Some versions exaggerated it. Others softened it. Many forgot details entirely. But one line remained the same in every telling. Earth spoke once, and meant it. Human children learned about the era in simple lessons. Not as triumph, as responsibility. Teachers explained that power was real, but choice mattered more. Some children asked why humanity did not take control when it could. The answer was always the same. Because the universe is not something you own. It is something you live in. On the anniversary of the warning, Director Hale stood before a small gathering. She was older now, her hair gray, her voice steady. "We did not save the galaxy," she said. "The galaxy chose to save itself. We only showed what happens when lines are crossed, and what happens when they are respected." She paused, then added softly, "And we learned that strength is knowing when not to act." When Hale stepped down, there was no applause, just quiet understanding. That night, human ships drifted peacefully among the stars. Trade lights flickered. Civilian lanes glowed. Life moved forward. The red line rested in the maps, unchanged. Not a threat, not a promise, a memory. And somewhere beyond stars and time, the universe itself continued, shaped not by conquest, but by countless small choices made freely. Humanity watched. Humanity waited. And the galaxy endured.